As a kid, I never owned a Gamecube. As an adult, I kind of always wanted one, so I bought one. But I'm still a Yorkshireman, so I bought it from a charity site selling on eBay, and that was at Isabel Hospice. Now, it was sold as being faulty, but it isn't faulty. It is pretty beat up, though. You can kind of see there we've got some pretty bad shell damage. Now, the shell is stained and not in uniform, you can see there, so I didn't want to try and retro bright it. So instead, I bought myself one of these. So I'm going to put the insides of this into this. I've also Pico-booted this GameCube, so it is modified and the wiring is fixed. So I'm going to have some fun, I think, getting it in there. This is by no means a how-to because I've never done it before. It might turn into a how not to video, but I'm going to have a bash and I figured I'd film it. So because we're going to be taking the GameCube out of the shell, the first thing we want to do is flip it upside down and remove the screws in each corner. Once you've got all 4 screws out, we're going to want to flip it back up onto its feet. And then I've read online that apparently before you remove the top, you should always make sure you open the lid. That way, apparently, you don't damage the lid open close switch. Makes sense to me. So with the lid open, we're going to slide the top off and we're going to throw it away. Then we need to remove the front panel because while I'm in here, I'm actually going to fix the battery because the battery's flat on this. So I'm going to remove that front panel, and that just involves tilting the front down by pulling these little tabs and then pulling on this ribbon cable. And then there you go, that comes out and goes away. And as you can see here, I've got a little Raspberry Pi Pico sitting in the side of mine, and the wiring is fixed on both ends. I didn't fit a connector because I didn't think I was going to be taking it apart again so soon. So future me is now suffering as a result of past me, or current me is suffering as a result of past me. Either way, it's my previous decisions. It's mine to deal with. So what I need to do now is whip all the screws out around the optical drive and lift the optical drive off. Now, once you've got all the screws off, one of the best things about the GameCube is the fact that everything is kind of on a little edge connector. So you literally just lift up on the optical drive and it comes off. And you can see just there is where that connector is, and it interfaces on the main board just here. And it's just a really cool way of doing it. I absolutely love the way Nintendo put these together. And I'm just going to zoom in a little bit as well so we can kind of see what's going on down here a bit better. Look at that. Right, okay, so you can kind of see the wires here from where I've done the Pico install. And I've also just, this is what's going to annoy me, I've just recently put new thermal pads on this as well. So I'm really hoping that I can remove this heatsink without damaging those thermal pads. We'll see. I do have another set of thermal pads just in case I do damage them. They're not that expensive, but they're allocated for another console, which is going to be another video. I won't talk too much about that. I'll ruin the surprise. So we're going to get this heatsink off real quick. Cool. Okay, so I've removed the screws. Time to see if I can just pry this up ever so slightly to get the heatsink off without tearing my brand new thermal pads. Come on. Oh, actually, do I need to remove it? No. No, I don't. I only needed to remove it to get to the solder points. To remove the main board from the case, I just need to remove the screws. So let's see if we can lift this out then without breaking anything. No, come on. Wait. Come on. Sweet. Dude, what does mine say? Cool. Right, okay, that's out. The reason it's a bit of a pain to get out is there is this big connector. Come on, camera. Come on, camera. Focus. Come on. Focus. No, this one instead, maybe? Yeah, there's this big connector here that makes it just a little bit difficult to get out. I don't want to wobble the Pico too much because I don't trust my soldering that much. But we're just going to pop the board to the side for now. We need to remove some more screws so that we can get to the power supply and get everything else out of the bottom bit of plastic. Let's do that now. So with all those screws out, should just be able to lift this heat shield out. And actually it looks to be in fairly decent condition. He says. Right, so what we're left with now is the bottom, and that is the actual power supply. So power comes in through the back of the console goes down through the plug and into this, and then up through these pins and into the main board. Pretty clever design, Nintendo. The capacitors look... Yeah, they look fine. They're not bulging or anything. They look good. So we're going to lift these out first of all. So these are the little heat shield. Well, no, they're not heat shields. What are they? Are they just retaining springs? I presume that's the purpose they solve. They may ground any accessories as well, I'm guessing. Maybe. I don't know. But we need those. We also need these little brass-looking hooks because they're what any accessories screw into that you might have. And they don't come with the replacement shell, so you need those. There is one more hiding under the power supply there, but it looks like I need to remove some screws first. So let's get at those. I'm going to keep those screws to hand, mainly because this is probably going to be the first thing to go back in on the next shell. So I'm not going to put them with the rest of the stuff. So we lift out the power supply. And there it is, if you want to look at it. Little cutie. Look at that. So that is the power supply for the Gamecube. And there's one more of the brass standoffs that I mentioned. Put that to one side. And then we're just left with this dusty old shell. So we can get rid of that now. So with the new one in, pretty much, I guess what we want to do is take the top off. So same way we took the other one apart, except there's no Gamecube in this one. Pop that to one side for now. Be very careful with these. Remove these little tabs. And just remove these. It is worth mentioning as well that when you buy these shells, you don't have the choice between DOL 001 or DOL 101. Instead, it just comes with the rear plates for both, which is quite handy, I suppose. Makes it easier for them. Right, okay, so now I'm going to put the brass standoff things back in. They appear to be handed in some way, shape or form. They have a little key on them. You just got to make sure that it's keyed. Is this gonna focus? Are you gonna help me out here, camera? No, maybe. There we go. So yeah, you can kind of see they got this little notch on them. You just got to line that up. Where did the other one come from? I can't remember. There. Sweet. So they're all in. And then we've got to put the power supply in now, which came out that way. Ooh. What in the world? There we go. So now with that in, we need to get these screws back in. And I am going to have to put my big fat head in the way for that, I think. First one. And it's worth bearing in mind as well that as we're putting the screws back in on the new shell, we are cutting new threads. This plastic isn't threaded. So just go nice and slow, don't go swinging off it. Otherwise, you run the risk of cracking the plastic, which will be really upsetting. There's also no need to over tighten as well. Now I need to put these things back in. That went that way. And that one went that way. Was the one there? I don't think so. Nope, nothing there. Is it in the bottom shell maybe? Nope. Okay, cool. What do we need to do next? What do I need to do next? Now that we've got those back in, we need to add the bottom shield again, which makes a really horrible squeaking noise as you're trying to put it in. Okay, so I was just struggling then, and apparently it's because I didn't make sure that the wires for the power supply were going down through the little, there's like a little groove for them to sit in. So make sure you do that, unlike me, who struggled with it for way too long. Right, okay, so once that's in, we've got some screws to put back in, which I'm going to do now. Now again, just worth remembering that we are cutting threads as we're screwing these in. So A, you're probably going to wind up with blisters on your fingers if you've got very soft hands like me. And you're also going to not want to swing on it. and I probably wouldn't recommend using something like an electric screwdriver just because you want to make sure they're going in straight. Here's where I go in with a caveman grip. Cool. Right, so they're all in. That's now doing whatever it was doing originally. Sweet. So now I'm going to get the main board back in very carefully, making sure not to pull the Pico, the Raspberry Pi Pico off, because that would be quite annoying. Make sure we really send it home in this corner, in this back corner, and just make sure that the board is flush all the way around with the metal shielding. And then we need to put the screws back in for the heatsink. Now that I've got the heatsink screws back in, I'm just going to go around them all and make sure that they're uniformly tight. That way I'm not putting any stress on the board or bending it or flexing it. Now that the main board's back in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap over the memory card slots because I got a set of replacement clear ones with the case. So to remove these, it's recommended that you push it in and pull it out. The reason for that is you see these little flags that you see on each side here. They're actually little stoppers. And if you try and remove this memory card slot whilst they're in the normal resting position, they're actually hooked in at the top. So you need to get it like that and then just try and lever them out, I guess. Like that. He says whilst covering the entire shop with his hand. Essentially, let me show you again. So I pushed the slot in like that. And then I hooked my finger in the top and just pulled it from the top. Just like that. I can't remember where I put the replacements. I'm hoping they're in here. The back plate. Oh. I just had a realization there. They've sent me two Doll 001 rear faceplates. So, yeah, maybe watch out for that if you've got a 101. Why would they do that? So these are the clear memory card covers. I'm going to try and get them in now. I think they came with some springs. Yes, they did, in this little baggie here. Springs, not drugs, honestly, officer. So yeah, let's try and fit these. I don't think there was a left one and a right one. Is there? Nope. Is there one on the case? Maybe. I don't know. Not on the flap. Not on the flap. Right, this is really fiddly. And there we go. So what I've got to do now is get this little spring onto here with the middle of the spring resting in there. And then I want to fold it over like that and then try and push it into the front. So we're going to go for this one. So the angle's not going to be perfect because I need to see it more than you need to see it. You don't need to see it that much. Oh, these fit like crap. So again, I'm just going to fold the spring over with my thumb and then post it into there. Yeah, they fit like crap. I mean, I'm never planning on using memory cards with this purely because I'm going to have Swiss, which can do virtual memory cards, but I do want to pre-order the MemCard Pro, at which point I probably will start using a memory card. For now, I've got to work with what I got. So, one of the things that I want to do whilst I'm in here is replace the battery on this bit here, purely because this one is flat and it's no longer keeping the time and date. Every time I fire it up, it tells me I need to set the time and date. So I need to replace that. But I didn't want to replace it with the same battery, so instead I bought a battery holder so that I can put CR 2032s in it. I think 2032s, yeah, 2032s. So I need to take this apart, which I've got to do anyway because I'm swapping this panel out, and I'm going to put the battery holder on. So we can discard this stained thing. We don't need it. Then I need to figure out how I'm going to swap the battery holder. Did it tell me which side's positive and which side's negative? Oh, it does. Cool. and do the replacements. No. No, they do not. I'm fairly certain the back and side, I think the back and side of a lithium battery is positive and the face of it is negative. Is that right? Hang on a second, I need to check this. Just to see if the eBay seller showed which orientation it goes in. Which he did. Cool. So I'm going to grab my soldering iron. And I'm probably going to regret not grabbing a soldering mat. I'm probably going to regret leaving this tip on more than anything, actually. Let's see if I can get this to melt. Which I can. And then let's see if we can get this battery out here. Nice. So that's the old battery out. I don't know if that was blurry for the entire time, but that's the old battery off. And I'm just going to put this on the floor behind the radio. So what I'm going to do now, see if I can line these two up. That's 9. Oh, there we go. Right, okay. So I'm going to burn my thumb by trying to quickly heat this solder up. Ow, yeah, burnt my thumb. But I'm going to try and heat this solder up to get that base through. Yeah, which that's done. And then I'm going to come in here and just heat up this end. See if I can get that to sit flat. Because I've already got that side in. Just need to get that side in now. There we go. So you can see that's now sat flat. Then what I'm going to do real quick is just make sure that it is soldered. In fact, it's not soldered very well, so I'm going to add some solder to it. Sweet. And then just add some to this as well, actually, last time, yeah. Ooh. Unplug my soldering iron because we don't need that anymore. Let's get rid of this. Sweet. So now I have a little battery holder. And it's replaceable as well. Oh, no. No, I'm not happy with that. Is there enough heat left in the soldering iron? No. No, there is not. It'd be nice if there was. I'd have to plug it back in again. Yeah, it's not sat flat enough for my liking. So I'm just going to come in here real quick. Ow, that's hot. There we go. Perfect. Now I'm actually done with the soldering iron. I can now put battery in there. So let's get the battery in. Expires 2028. Sweet. I wonder how many times I've said sweet in this video. Now just hook that in. Click. And it should hopefully remember the date and time now. We'll test that next. Is there anything else I need to do to this? No. So I'm ready for the replacement front panel, which is this bit here. So that goes in just like that. And now we add our screws. Ooh, that was a weird click. Ah, okay. Okay, so don't do what I just did. When you're setting the PCB back on the replacement front, if this will focus from it, come on camera, focus. it sits on 2 little plastic pegs here and here. Just make sure it's on those before you start winding those screws in. And there is the replacement front. Sweet. Again, I keep saying sweet. Dude. Sweet. Right, so Pico out of the way. Don't need that just yet. What do I need now? Optical drive. So we're going to get the optical drive sat back on, and I need to be really careful when I'm doing this because I don't want to pinch where the Pico wiring is going. So if I move that out of the way, it focuses where the Pico wiring is going. I don't want it to get pinched. It is going to get slightly compressed, but it should be fine, and it's the best I can do. So get that in there. Make sure that that is sat flush. And what we're looking for here, certainly if you've got a Pico mod, is we're looking for the ability to be able to close that and screw it down without cutting or damaging any of the wires. So the wires aren't anywhere sharp, so we should be okay. So now I'm just going to whiz all the screws back in. I've already blistered my finger cutting these threads in. I do have famously soft hands, apparently. That is the proof. Now that I've got the majority of the screws back in, it's time to put the fan back in. I've 3D printed this little mount here so that the Pico just slides in there. I will put a link to the STL for that if you want one as well. It's pretty cool. I saw lots of different mounting options, and that just seemed like the most convenient and sensible one for me. Now I've got all the screws in, the optical drive screwed back on, the fan is screwed on, the Pico's mounted, power supply switch is mounted, and I've also tucked the wires away. Don't forget to tuck those back in when you put this back together. Now all I need to do is throw on the rear panel cover, which just kind of slides in there, like that, and then just clicks on to these pegs here. Clip. And those ports line up nicely. Now I need to get the front panel on. So I hate this ribbon connector. I think it is a pain in the ass. We need to get this ribbon connector in here, like so, and then we just kind of set it up and it clicks in place as well. Now you can kind of see, you might be able to see it better here, but yeah, that's quite annoying. That is quite annoying that doesn't sit, they don't sit properly. Can we fix that? Okay, so they're now a little bit better. They do sit flush, but I guess it means if anybody ever accidentally pushes one of them in, I'm gonna have to take the whole Gamecube apart, take the front cover off and pull it. I will do some research and see if there's a way to fix those. If there is, I'll either do a follow-up video or I'll add it at the end of this video. Probably won't add it at the end of this video though. But yeah, that's that for that. So now it's time to put the top on. So the final piece. Now, what I did notice when I was looking at the shell is there isn't a fan filter. And a lot of people might not know this, or a lot of people might know it, but the fan filter is removable on the Gamecube. So if you grab your original shell and you get the fan filter here, you just flick it up and it slides out. So it is removable if ever you need to clean it. So let's see. There we go. Does it fit? It does. Cool. So got the fan filter in there and we're ready to put it all back together. So again, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of people recommend ejecting the lid before you sit the top back on, which makes sense to me. Top back on. So now that the lid is on, I'm going to shut the top. I'm going to flip it over. And we're going to reinstall these screws. Now I did get new ones of these. I just didn't get any of the others. So I'm going to use the new ones. And we're done. So that is the finished Gamecube with the reshell. Eject and everything works. The button doesn't sit as nice as I would like it to. Certainly doesn't sit flush like the original one did. But it was, or it is, sorry, an aftermarket Gamecube case for a relatively inexpensive one that I have already scratched. Nice. Probably worth putting a soft cloth or something down on your desk whilst you're doing this. But yeah, it isn't as good as the OEM shell, that's for sure. But it's a hell of a lot better than the one that I had. So I've got the fan filter in. Oh, cool! You can see the Pico. You can see the Pico on the side as well. That's cool. So yeah, I am beyond annoyed at the fact that I've already put a little scratch in it, but I'm not bothered. It is what it is. I've done it now. What are they going to do? Shoot me? So yeah, replacement case is done, and I do have a little bit of extra work to do because when I got the Game Boy, I also got a Game Boy player, and obviously it is a translucent black shell with a black Game Boy player, and to be fair, that doesn't look bad. It doesn't look bad at all. But I bought this, which is a translucent black Game Boy player shell. So I am gonna swap that over as well. Now, it's worth bearing in mind that whilst I have taken the Gamecube apart a few times, I've never dismantled a Game Boy player. So that's going to be a first for maybe both of us right now. Let's see. How does it come apart? Okay, so they're all game bit screws. Are there any screws on the bottom? Nope. They're all game bit screws here. So I already have that attachment on. So let's whip these out real quick. Cool. Right, screws out. I think. Is this just going to pop off? Definitely no other screws. Ah, okay, it's the spring clips on the side that are holding that in. Nice. Cool. Okay, so let's get these out. Let's get those out. I'm going to put this to one side. I'm probably going to pop this on eBay just because somebody might have a Game Boy player that's a different color and they might want to make it black. So I'm not going to throw these away because these aren't damaged. These are fine. And then let's have a look. So this is the insides of the Game Boy player, which I personally have never seen before. Okay, so gaggle of screws removed, and we should... Oh, no, two more. Hide in there. Out of view. You could see them. I couldn't see them. And you didn't tell me. Right, gaggle of screws removed, so this should all come off now. So the heat shield PCB is coming with it. Cool. So I've never, like I said, I've never looked inside or seen the inside of a Game Boy player before, but now I have. It seems quite well stuck on. Oh, yeah, I don't want to pointlessly take the heatsink off just to see what's on the other side of the PCB. But there is a little chip just under there as well. I can't see what it is. So, but we don't need to see it. We're good. Let's pop that to one side. Remove this. And this is the release mechanism for the Game Boy cartridge. Let's just zoom in a little bit for you there. So this is the release mechanism for the Game Boy cartridge. Now the replacement shell did come with one as well, but it didn't come with a spring. So I'm guessing they want me to steal the spring. I'm tempted to steal the arm as well because that arm looks considerably better quality than this one. So if that arm will fit this, then it's going in. So let's try it. So I'm just going to transplant that by lifting it up, letting the spring come off, double checking how the spring comes off. Sweet, okay, that's easy enough. So let's see if we can get this on in the same way. So to get the spring on, it just hooks over this little tab here. And then that slides over this pivot part here. And it sits like that. So that works. So I'm going to use this one because that's genuine Nintendo parts. Presume helps. Transfer over this little heat shield, or little grounding shield. It's not a heat shield, is it, Steve? Nope. Now, how do I get... Oh. Suppose that makes sense. I don't know why I thought they were going to be more difficult to get out. So again, I'm not throwing this away. I'm going to keep this and I'm going to sell them or give them away to somebody if they need them. If you need them, drop me a comment. So that goes in there. Cool. That then comes along here, sits in there like that. Awesome. Board goes in like this. All seems to fit really nicely, which is good. So now I'm going to whiz all the screws back in without making this blister on my finger worse. Yeah, I've just realised it's not a heat shield. It's like a little reinforcement piece, isn't it? I guess. What? Do you want to be in the video? You want to be in the video? Come here then. Right. You're in the video. Don't scratch my chair, please. Look, you're in the video. Look, it's good. You're in the video. Everybody gets to see you. Everybody gets to see how lovely you are. They do. Cool. I'm going to have to add a guest starring credit now, aren't I? Cool. Right, now time to get the game bits back in without blistering my fingers even more. So let's zoom out a little bit again. Grab the Gamecube. Stick that on top. So there it is. My charity shop Gamecube has been reshelled in a translucent black case, and so has my Game Boy player. All in all, I think it looks really good. There are a few quality issues with the case, but it is a cheap aftermarket case, so I can't complain too much. But yeah, I'm going to fire it up now, make sure the battery's working, make sure it's saving the date, and make sure it still turns on, importantly. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up, and please check back because I've got lots of other console mods planned, including another Gamecube that I'm going to do a Pico install video on because I'm doing that for a friend. So yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully it wasn't too boring. And yeah, if you've got any criticisms or questions, leave them in the comments below. Thanks. As a child, I never had a Gamecube. No. As an adult,